very, very young roster, so we'll see what they bring to the table here. But yeah, starting things off, just getting Absolute Legends versus Kaipi Gaming, and then following that will be Fnatic's lineup there. But anyways, we will jump on into the draft. We have taken a little bit of delays getting on into this here. There were some problems with the Danish internet service provider, and so they had to make some changes here. We did actually see them running a Jolene as a stand-in that is in replacement of Unicorn, so presumably their carry pickup here. But either way, it's going to be myself, Blaze, solo casting for today, so hopefully you guys can appreciate that. And yeah, I'm going to do my best to try to stay on top of the action no matter what. So what we're looking at here, we do see, starting off, interesting bans. Starting the Magnus ban, that's relatively common, but the Nature's Prophet first ban coming with Kaipi, that's pretty interesting. Miggle loves to play that Nature's Prophet on the offlane, and that's something that they kind of want to shut down here. Don't want to have to be on the back foot as far as the numbers advantage when it goes into little skirmishes. When you go in and you're like 3 versus 3 and suddenly there's a 4th in there, it definitely creates a little bit more chaos, a little bit more difficulty in responding to that kind of situation. That right click damage not to be underestimated, so something to keep in mind as they move forward. Alright, just double checking everything. Cool. So it looks pretty good. And yeah, carrying on as we get underway here, we do see Alto the Lifestealer has been banned out for Absolute Legends, so taking off that carry aspect for Eternal Envy. Eternal Envy is actually carrying this team here, not like in the sense of he's the one guy who's doing everything. No, it's in the sense that he's actually playing that #1 role. It's very, very different from the supportive role we used to see him in, but yeah, I mean, obviously everybody has potential in a lot of different mindsets, so we'll see exactly how he fares in that. We've seen one match for him. It went both ways, really, but in this scenario, we'll have to see if he will be able to hard carry to victory, or if it's just going to be, you know, not going to go his way. Absolute Legends, like I said, has been performing much, much better as of late, and they're most definitely a force to be reckoned with. Of course, they're running with a stand-in today, so that might be a limiting factor, but finally we get some actual picks to talk about here. Before that is just kind of a little bit of preemptive. Oh, who's gonna ban what here? We see the Wisps taken off, but interestingly enough, the Keeper of the Light didn't actually get picked. The Nyx Assassin gets selected alongside the Darkseer for Kaipi, and the Batrider was that first pick for Absolute Legends. So they have a lot of initiation control and just positioning control with the Batrider, jumping on in there and lassoing on away. Eventually he'll get a Force Staff up and find himself in a pretty good position there. But interestingly enough, this Nyx Assassin is considered a pretty good counter pick as far as that Batrider Nyx Assassin lane matchup. If the Bat does not go in the jungle, if he opts for the mid lane, the Nyx Assassin can 1v1 him relatively effectively with the mana burn, with the Carapace, trying to do what damage he can. So that'll be pretty interesting. So, waiting for the lineup to kind of round itself out here. We see the Batrider pick up from AL, and they're going to go with a Lone Druid to go for presumably the off lane, and then run their Keeper of the Light on the safe lane solo. This opens the door wide open, honestly. They could go for so many different heroes that'll go nicely with the Keeper of the Light. The traditional one is the Phantom Lancer, benefiting so much from that continuous mana infusion from the Chakra Magic, but it's not always going to be an option. I mean, Kaipi can ban it out, or they can just draft well against it. If they pick up like a Shadow Demon here, they don't even have to worry about the Phantom Lancer coming out. They can just pretty much play their style of game and run a lot of anti-illusion type things. Fight fire with fire, I suppose. Either way, that would be a possible selection, but they might also want to be securing the carry for Kaipi, because if they secure their own carry, they can just ban out 3, and then that Phantom Lancer will be a non-issue either way. So that could be promising in its own right, but they also will be lacking in lane support. Nyx Assassin has a lot of lane presence, but like I said, up against the Batrider, he's more often than not going to be seen in that mid lane solo. So they go for the Gyrocopter here. That leaves them a little bit of flexibility. If they have all their supports banned out and they have to run Nyx as support, at least they have a pretty good one to counteract. Gyrocopter versus Bat, I have to give the favoritism towards the Bat in that matchup, but nevertheless, both of them are great 1v1 heroes. The homing missile, flat cannon, it's good harassment, and we'll see how it plays out. Either way, though, Gyrocopter can also be played as a very powerful carry here. It's kind of a preemptive, another one of those preemptive pickups to counteract a Phantom Lancer that could come out, but they might still opt to ban it and just make sure they have a bunch of AoE control with that flat cannon. So starting things off, it looks like the solo mid bans are going to be coming out. Interestingly enough, I mean that technically could be an offlaner as well, but the Darkseer is already going to secure that role 100%. So the Queen of Pain, definitely a mid ban, but the Nyx Assassin and Gyrocopter, they could be running on the bot lane. Both of them, either one of them could also opt for that mid situation. Nyx, in general, is more commonly seen as a support, just because he has huge amounts of disable and lane presence. But again, I've talked about this multiple times over, he's just really good against Batrider. Really, really good. I mean, you stack up Napalm 5 times over, you still will be worried a little bit about that Carapace bouncing things back. But either way, we'll see exactly how it plays on out here with the subsequent bans. So as far as these guys' current rankings, right now they're listed at number 9 and number 10. Kaipi actually being a replacement team, replacing out Pain Gaming, who ended up disbanding based on performance issues as well as stability issues within the team. So Kaipi has been their replacement, but kind of has retroactively inherited their rankings. So in this situation, they don't look too well in the rankings on the charts. But the good thing about that is that they aren't really too concerned about their current situation in the playoffs. They're just trying to build a little bit of a rapport among team members, a little bit of synergy and coordination in a competitive environment, and also get their name out there a little bit more and more. So we'll see how that's going to play itself out in these subsequent matchups. That's really what they're looking for, is just to gain some traction, to actually build up their foundations and actually start playing competitively. So that's obviously really where you need to get going as a young team. And this is probably one of the youngest ones in the professional scene right now. As I mean, Eternal Envy only left No Tidehunter maybe like, what, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and now he's already switched on over to this. He's definitely one of those individuals that wants to be in this scene. He likes to practice, he likes to really put his mind to something and try to be as active with it as possible. So picking up a team with a bunch of Romanians, I mean, it's kind of the opposite of the effect you have with EG. You have one guy in North America, and then you have the rest in Europe, and that kind of flip-flops it around a little bit. But nevertheless, they're playing pretty well so far, and we'll have to see if it's enough to bring down AL. Now, these bans coming on out, they ban out the Phantom Lancer, they ban out the Shadow Demon, so they really, really don't want to have to worry about powerful Keeper of the Light lanes. There's still way too many options to negate them all. I mean, you could go as simple as something like a Rubik and telekinesis them back into it. In fact, up against this lineup here, the Nyx Assassin, Darkseer, and Gyrocopter, Rubik seems probable, but we'll have to see. Lone Druid going to be most likely going on the bottom lane off lane. The Batrider most likely going to go in the mid lane. And then the Keeper Light will be supporting up a carry and a support up top. From there, Kaipi, again, Darkseer will be off lane, but beyond that, it's hard to say. Nyx and Gyro can both go bottom or top, bottom or mid, either in the tri-lane or in the solo role, respectively. Clockwork going to come on out as far as bans go. Again, they just really want to ban out these solo heroes, possibly forcing out that Nyx into the mid role. There's plenty of great supports that can work well with Gyrocopter, but banning out the Shadow Demon might make it a little more difficult. Now, they ban out the Alchemist, even though they're not up against Unicorn. They're up against a stand-in, so it's a little weird to actually take that hero off the board, but it's still something that might be a little bit scary. It's a long-duration stun. It could be a setup for a powerful Illuminate. They just need something like a Rubik to make it work here. But instead, we're seeing actually a very interesting pickup with this Weaver. Not exactly sure what to think about this. It's a great hero that can just poke and prod at enemies in a setting, either in the off-lane, surviving like a Clinks would normally, or in a tri-lane setting, just kind of maneuvering around, staying alive while dishing out a lot of damage. It's definitely a force to be reckoned with, but in this lineup here, he's not going to be laning with the Lone Druid, and Lone Druid doesn't like to be laning with a Coddle, so I presumably think it's going to be Keeper Light, Weaver, and one other supportive individual that has some kind of disable. They really need disables in this kind of scenario, because right now all they've got is the Batrider's Lasso and Bear Entangle if it even procs. So definitely something to have to deal with more directly against this Gyrocopter, who inevitably will get big enough that a Lasso won't be sufficient. And from there, the damage will come out, and it's going to be a very, very devastating thing. Alrighty then, so Bane comes on out for Kaipi. Pretty standard supporter pickup. There is that Rubik. I kind of saw that one coming. It's just the most obvious one in this situation because Telekinesis has a stun effect, but it also has a position and control effect. So you can make sure you get the maximum damage from the Illuminate, and that's going to set them up very, very nicely for Tri-Lane. I mean, Weaver, Keeper Light, Rubik, it's going to be a lot of damage, and it's going to be difficult for even somebody like Darkseer to go up against because it's just going to be a lot of damage coming on out. It's not going to force him off the lane entirely, but a lot of Darkseers prefer to just opt for the jungle for a couple of levels to get some points in Surge, some Iron Shell, so on and so forth, and before they actually have to go into this instability that is a 1 versus 3 scenario. Either way, here we do see the Bane in conjunction with the Gyrocopter is going to be great lockdown up against that Weaver. Not so much against the Lone Druid. You Fiend's Grip 1, the other one's going to probably like get into Tangle Proc to cancel it out. That kind of thing can be very, very frustrating, but if you get that Fiend's Grip on the Weaver, you can delay that time lapse until he's pretty much entirely dead, and negating that ultimate means that you don't have to chew through his health bar 2 times over, just the 1. Jolene is going to be picking up that carry Weaver role, while we do see that actually Mania is going to be running on the Lone Druid, so that'll be interesting. Alrighty then, so the Bane-Lina combo is pretty strong. It's pretty much just designed to go for a Nightmare into Light Strike array. Really, really promising in that sense, and we do already see that Arise is heading up on the mid lane as the Nyx. He's intended to go up against the Bat Rider. Rise has picked that up, gone for a Branch and 3 Tangle build, but Arise is ready for him. He's going for a Magic Stick and build into an early bottle, but the situation here is an early mana burn, and plus that Magic Stick will nullify most of Bat Rider's 1 versus 1 threat, so that's going to be very, very promising. Alrighty then, so what we see here, we have the Weaver most likely going for an early Aquila, only real reason to pick up that Circlet nowadays. So that's going to allow him to push a little bit more aggressively, but the main intention here is just to shut down the Gyro. They have this aggressive tri-lane, they want to negate Eternal Envy's last hits as much as possible. He might be going for Tranquil Boots or an Aquila himself, we'll have to see, but in this situation, he's going to be trying to survive as much as possible just to get those last hits safely. But it's going to be easier said than done. In this position here, already negating this pull, as well as providing some nice vision into anybody that tries to contest from the flank. It's really setting it up so that the Dire know exactly what they're up against, and they can go for some good angled Illuminates coming out from Miggle here. Now we do see the first Rune Spawn kind of being directly contested between the two. He actually pops off the barrage, but he secures himself a double damage rune. Well timing that so that he can go in for some last hits. I mean, when you have right off the bat almost 100 damage to work with here, you're going to be pretty fine and dandy as far as finding at least a few right clicks here and there. Up on top, it is going to be 1 versus 1 Mania versus Bone 7. Actually getting a lot in this position here. Bone 7 really wanted to creep skip and go for that Iron Shell, but in a 1 versus 1, taking this much harassment this early on, I mean, he only has 1 set of tangos, so he's going to be down and out as far as HP very, very quickly. Lone Druid is forced to stay on the lane for the moment, but he has a stout shield on that bear, and I think he can actually sustain much longer than Bone 7 is capable. That's going to be rather unfortunate for him. But we'll see how it pans out as he goes for this next pull. Yeah, he is in a very dangerous position. Now, we do see Shukuchi coming on through from Jolene, trying to put pressure out onto EE and Zizo, but currently not gaining much effect in that regard. Yeah, Darkseer in such a bad spot right now. Actually has to go for an easy camp pull and kind of just watch the two forces clash while he just tries to go for last hits here and there. So he'll get some experience. I'm not saying that's going to be an issue. It's just he doesn't really have much more to work with without this HP regen. So that'll be an interesting exchange. Meanwhile, Lone Druid picking up just as many last hits and pretty much doing perfectly fine. You see that bear's HP. Plenty to work with here. And even going for a neutral pull himself. Arise using that mana burn on cooldown, just trying to make sure Arise doesn't have too much to work with here, but he's almost got his bottle, and that will provide him plenty of sustainability in both HP and mana. Rune control will be that much more relevant here. Illuminate going in onto Pylite. He does get Telekinesis back, but a nice Nightmare onto Miracle means that it's going to be Jolene almost by himself, going for some right clicks, but without any Geminate, he is going to get it. This last right click, all he needs, but the first blood first comes out. It is going to be a 1-for-1 here. Is Zizu finishing off Miracle before that Illuminate struck, but in the end, Miggle will be able to pick up the slack there. Goes for a Nightmare, but it looks like Eternal Envy is distracted. Going in for this Weaver who has the Shukuchi up in 2 seconds, as well as a Salve. Yeah, he is going to be perfectly fine. Could Salve and Shukuchi, and he's going to go in for it. Has Gemini attack, but has to get on out. It's a pretty long cooldown at rank 1, and he just can't afford to go in over as, but he's actually getting hit by the tower while stunned up by the Lina. Shukuchi up in 1 second, he will survive, but man, did he just take a huge pounding, wasted that salve entirely. So in the end, a 1-for-1 exchange going the way of Kaipi, because they did get it on the first blood on the Bane, and then following that up, there was a kill on the Lina, but it was just a little bit too little too late. And that's the problem with a level 1 Weaver. Shukuchi is great for survivability and a little bit for damage, but you need that Geminate to really start just laying into the opposition. So now Jolene, low HP, has to be given tangos by his supports. And from here, you kind of see them gradually losing footing, especially with this flat cannon going on through. Jolene accomplishing nothing with his last Shukuchi. He has one more available. Here in the mid lane, we do see Rise still duking out with Kaipi, or sorry, Rise going up against Rise. Sorry, that's a little confusing there. But anyways, we do see that he has been using his magic stick very, very actively. He's trying to make sure that Rise pays for every single napalm he throws on out. And up on top lane, we do see that Bone 7 was able to find some HP regen, presumably through this bottle, and then he was immediately afterwards able to bottle up this haste rune, trying to bring down this bear is his main intention here, because Mania doesn't have it up. Well, he does have the cooldown up, but it's going to be painful for him. Losing a lot of HP from that true damage strike, killing the bear, and now he's probably going to drop down himself. Bone 7 taking up the tower a lot, but no chance to entangle means Bone 7 is going to be able to get a solo kill here. Yeah, that was very unfortunate for him, and I just realized he just summoned the bear. That was the worst thing he could possibly have done. He was looking for like a body block with it, but in this situation, now it's down for 2 full minutes, and that pretty much gives the lane 100% to Bone 7. Finding one rune at the 4-minute will seal the fate of this laning situation, whereas the lone druid has nothing to work with here without his bear. Pretty much a druid without a bear, he's just a right clicker that can get a movement speed buff. Like, he has nothing to go for him. And it looks like the rune will spawn down bottom, so it won't be something that the Darkseer can acquire, but nevertheless, he has already kind of made his impact in this situation, going for a couple of face bombs onto Rise, gets flame breaked up towards the tower for one more right click, but he will fall back in the end. Keep the light down at bottom, taking big hits here. Lina already having done that stun. Miggle will be actually denied. No, Gyrocopter is going to be able to pick it up with a barrage, but it is going to be the Lina to fall next, with Jolene needing one more right click, but Pagliati jukes on into the trees, and now Jolene has to Shukuchi on through, but needs 2 more seconds to get this accomplished. He will be able to follow suit, but Pagliati jukes north, not going to change anything. Here comes Miracle. Does not have telekinesis, but the Fade Bolt is enough to bring down Zizu as well, so they are turning things around very nicely in the bottom lane, bringing down everybody but Eternal Envy, but the problem is Eternal Envy is the one they need to focus on the hardest. He's the one that the longer he is in the engagements, the more damage he's going to do with that rocket barrage, and it's going to get more and more difficult to overcome what he's bringing to the table.
Denied.
So, looking at experience per minute, you're actually seeing that the Lone Druid is topping out, which is kind of surprising considering his early death. But well, big deal about that is that Bone 7 wasn't able to play the way he wanted to, was forced away from this position because of how much damage he took from the bear, and had to go to farm the jungle a little bit and things along those lines. He might have actually fallen back to base, I'm not 100%, but he ended up getting that bottle, and that set him up so that he could go for that haste solo kill. It's just not adding up enough. Here we do see Pagliati going for that Light Strike Array, but Rise going to juke it out to the north, and from there he's still in a pretty good position despite being completely out of mana. The best part about this for them is that Pagliati is not contributing to the bottom lane whilst being in the mid. He has 295 MS, so he'll get down there eventually, but it is a lot of time where he's not putting out pressure, and that's leaving it up for Jolene to actually tank up some creep waves, get a Tranquil Boots early on, and be in a pretty good position after the fact. Wall of Replica picked up by Bone 7 at level 6 is very interesting. First entangle. But picking up that Wall of Replica seems like he wants a team fight early, but he's mostly been focusing on 1 versus 1 type play, so I'm not sure if that was just a mistake by him or if he really does intend to go for big matchups here. Nice telekinesis, but the Brain Sap will still come on through, so that's going to be the death of Miracle here. No, they're going to go for the Nightmare. They want to hand it to an ally, but no, they're going to finish it off one way or another. A couple right clicks go the way of Pagliati, but it's not going to change their endeavors here. Focusing down on Miggle, they will be able to get some good damage on into him, and with, no, the Light Strike already missing. The Dragon Slave, oh, 8 HP. One more barrage tick would have done it, but didn't want to go in because Pagliati didn't hit his spells, and instead is going to go the other way. Lina takes a fall, and the Keeper of the Light, Ezalor, playing so ballsy with this last Illuminate, but still, he survives, lives another day, and will head back to heal from the fountain, TP back up for some more aggression. Do we just see up top, this is a Vendetta Nyx Assassin, even surged on in, maybe unnecessary, but he's going to go in, has that Ion Shell, has the big burst damage, and Mania is going to take a fall. Wall of Replica, that is not a good use. I'm plain and simple, 100%. There's no reason to be committing a 100 second cooldown with 200 mana cost that you didn't even need to skill yet for a person that's already dead. That's kind of obvious to say, but, you know, it's still, I feel it needs to be said. No Nightmare opportunity from Zizou. He wanted it, but no mana available, so instead he's going to take a few right clicks here. Jolene picking up that solo kill, and I think Jolene wants to go in. He's actually, yeah, there is some lifesteal involved here, but with the Shikuchi, he's going to be in a good spot to get that last right click and time lapse out, but he doesn't get the time lapse. Sends out the last right click, but the tower hits him before that ulti comes on through, and that keeps both of them in the grave. That is a 1-for-1 exchange, which is generally not how you want that not how you want to play that out at all if you're the Weaver. Yeah, he definitely could have gotten more out of that, or at least lost less with that death. So Eternal Envy actually lost a 1-versus-1 type exchange just because of how great Weaver is in both the single target damage sense and also just kind of jumping on through without detection. I think what Kaipi needs to change the pace of the game right now is definitely picking up some detection. They don't have anything at all. There's some sentries on the Rubik, but that's the wrong team. So in this situation here, it's really, really awkward for the Kaipi because the Weaver can pretty much do whatever he wants as he Shikuchi's on through, and now that is actually maxed out. He can be in this kind of position here with no real problems. Like, he's gonna get nightmared up in a moment, actually committing the time lapse, which is interesting. But either way, he feels comfortable to just kind of jump in and out and poke and prod until Gyrocopter's sitting about this HP level. And then as soon as that nightmare is on cooldown, or actually just now, he could have gone in. I was looking for that next right click, but it got canceled out by the fog, so he won't be able to find the kill. But he's gonna keep on just Shikuchiing around and forcing the Gyrocopter off the lane. Now we do see actually big damage on Pilates. They commit the lasso, and that might be enough to bring him down, but they've lost all their cooldowns. Here comes a Rise. Big burst damage, even commits the Vendetta just to make sure this is going to work out for him. And Miracle is also out of cooldowns. Looking for that Impale. He will not be able to juke to the northwest, and here this is going to be enough to close it in. Miracle in a terrible spot, and that's Pits of Formation. That's going to be the Rubik in the grave as well, setting it up so that now Kaipi is sitting 8-6 in favor. Whew, this game is a doozy. A lot of actions. Yeah, not too much as far as supportive ultimates, though. Apparently, Lina has her Laguna Blade available, but didn't have the mana in that situation. We do see that Zizou is still working well on his way towards that Fiend's Grip. When it comes out, things will change because that's almost a guaranteed kill with in a 2-versus-1 situation. But nevertheless, he's currently just trying to find that solo experience, trying to find that big ultimate. In the meantime, we do see that pretty much everybody else has already made their way there. Ezreal is only level 5. Miracle is only level 5 as well, but as soon as that Spell Steal comes out, it's actually going to be a great counter pick to the Bane. It's pretty much, Fiend's Grip is probably the easiest spell to Spell Steal, just because it's a channeled effect and single target. In that sense there, I think the Rubik could capitalize on it and actually shut down the Gyrocopter pretty hardcore. So again, I talked about it a couple times over, but the Rubik was just way too smart of a draft to pass up, and I'm really glad that they did end up going for it. Looking over at the last hits, we do see that Lone Druid is sitting at 45, whereas the Bat Rider is running at 42. So right now, Absolute Legends in general are pretty much at the utmost advantage. I mean, the Darkseer has picked up a little bit himself with 42 listed, but some of that is jungle creeps, and that's not going to provide nearly as much gold or experience despite the listing there. But if we look at the experience graph, it tells us a different story, and the reason for that is the kills that are on the board. Just going for those exchanges, Nyx Assassin, Darkseer have been all over the place, ganking up aggressively, so the gold is now in favor of Kaipi, as well as the experience, because those kills really change the pace of things. It's not all about the farm, and in this case, it's probably going to be less and less, because all these heroes are just so very gank-oriented. Bat Rider loves to get in for those blink lassos. Nyx Assassin, I mean, do I even need to say it? But either way, gank-oriented heroes are going to pretty much decide the pace of this game, and from there, the last hits are going to be less and less relevant. A lot of push coming in on this top tower with an illusion room popped and some ion chills active. It's going to actually provide Darkseer a lot of opportunity to batter down this tower very swiftly. So nice opportunity for him, and that's generally the opposite side of the coin from what you usually see. Lone Druid is generally going to be pushing pretty hard on the enemy's tower, especially in a 1v1 situation, but Bone 7 stands his ground. Now teleporting down bottom, we're going to see this Wall of Replica in work, surging on in, but he doesn't have much more mana to work with. Just barely enough for his combo, looking to pull them both in right here. Nice vacuum, and the wall hits on both of them. Light Strike Array, everything comes on through perfectly, and they clean up for a double kill. They commit the Fiend's Grip, but it helps them with the positioning. Jolene will be able to TP out, but yeah, they committed 3 ultimates, or just the 2. Just 2 ultis, but either way, they were able to set up a perfect exchange. That sets them even further ahead. Alrighty then, so it looks like Arise is still pretty much holding his ground in the mid lane. What I like about this is it does delay Rise's Blink Dagger if he can get any denies or force him off the lane. What I dislike about this is it's not really how you want to run a Nyx in general. You don't want to babysit an opponent and just be like, okay, don't farm, don't farm, don't farm. You want to be all over the map. You want to be a threatening presence, and the fact that they only have one set of sentries is something that you should be able to exploit. But in this situation here, he is kind of stuck on the mid lane, now trying to control runes, and it's just, unfortunately for him, gonna spawn bottom. Double damage for Bone 7. Arise coming in for a Vendetta on Mania, but in that true form, he has way too much armor and HP to really go up against directly, and with this armlet almost finished, I love that the components are actually on Mania himself. At least the Helm of Iron Will makes him so much tankier than he normally would be, and that actually puts him in a pretty good spot, and as soon as the armlet itself is done, that bear will be happy to host it as well. The one thing to mention though is that he doesn't have any boots of speed. No boots on the bear, no boots on, or he has tranquil boots on himself, but nevertheless it's kind of hindering his mobility, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Nyx up top, Arise just goofing around, but one thing to mention is this Observer Ward up top. The Dire have full understanding of Arise's positioning, and a visible Nyx is not going to be nearly as effective, because, I mean, if you're not going to be having that surprise factor, then suddenly you're just going to be very predictable and easy to be counter-ganked or just survived against. Either way. We do see Nightmare starting off on Miggle. They will go for the Light Strike Array. Following this up, they get the Fiend's Grip on Weaver. I love this play. Oh my gosh, perfect action coming out of the Radiant once more. Kaipi diverting their attention to 2. Zizou really planned that out. He knew that the action from Lina was enough to kill the Ezreal. He has no escape. So what do? You follow up with Lockdown on the target that you're worried about. Getting the Fiend's Grip on the Weaver sealed his fate and set things up nicely. While Replica committed up top as well as Vendetta. Going to be able to bring down Mania, no problem at all here. They go for the Surge, the Barrage, and the Call Down to clean things up. And from there, they can push in pretty much 2 different fronts. They can push in on the tier 1 tower down bottom, and they can still keep that damage going on up top. As I was mentioning, he's dropped it down pretty hardcore with illusion runes and so on and so forth, and this double damage will set up a nice little tower kill. Look at this gold graph shooting on up. 2,500 in favor of Kaipi, and they've deserved every inch of ground that they've acquired. Really good timing of their team fights, good usage of their skills, and I gotta say Zizou really made it happen, because that Weaver kill is not to be understated. He's just too darn slippery to not let it go. Unfortunately, Rise putting down a flame break that only gave the Bane a nudge in the right direction. Gonna miss out on that kill, but they're gonna put some damage in the tower in turn, forcing out of the fortification, but right now Kaipi doesn't seem to be intending to respond.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen. Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Alright, and I'm just being informed from one of my contacts that Jolene, for those that don't know, I was one of them, that that is alias for Socks from DD Dota, so anybody that's a fan of him, he's actually pretty good on a farm priority role, so there you go. For those that had no idea who this Jolene guy was, he's playing pretty well in this situation, playing very aggressively. It's not panning out for them just yet. Oh, that Impale. If it had worked, that would have been so clutch, but either way, just a little bit too ambitious, and it's not going to really pan out in favor of them. We do see that Miracle has stolen an Iron Shell for whatever that's worth. But actually going on in, he wanted to kill this Observer Ward while the Sentry was still active, but actually based on the fact that the Invis got destroyed, the last auto attack got disjointed, effectively, where it turned Invis. You think of Rikimar getting hit by a tower out of range, yeah, it's gonna just immediately nullify that auto attack, and from there, he just wasted his time, just put himself in a bad spot, and you could see very well exactly what the results of that action was. But nevertheless, Socks is farming up okay. He's in a position where he has the Aquila, the Tranquils, looking for drums. He is farming up to a point where he has 3,800 net worth, but it's really, you're looking at the 3 core heroes of Kaipi, and they are just completely outclassing that kind of farm. We see that the Gyrocopter already has his treads, looking for maybe a BKB very soon. He could go for a drum himself. We do also see that the Darkseer has finished up his mechanism. Amazing teamfight utility coming out of this guy. So much potential. Now that he has his wall of replica at rank 1, his vacuum maxed out, next level he's going to have even a rank 2 wall to add on to that. So this is going to be harder and harder for Absolute Legends to do anything against, and not even able to do turtle counter push because of the way Carapace works up against the Keeper of the Light. So all in all, really in favor of Kaipi Gaming. They're trying to go and turn that around a little bit with Absolute Legends jumping on bottom, but that blink initiation did not connect with Gyrocopter, and instead they're being forced back, surging on the Lina, trying to get that LSA, but instead getting put up in the air and just dropped down immediately. A quick disconnect. I don't think that would have changed it. She was just too hard disabled, but either way, turning things around nicely. Radiant just doing so much damage here. Kaipi going to clean house, bringing down the Batrider, bringing down the Rubik, and the only one on the run is going to be that Weaver, who's just a little bit too quick. But again, the Lina did get a little bit in over her head, but I don't think it would have changed her fate because she tried to cast a Light Strike Array. The W came out, and doesn't work because of the lasso. Interesting. I don't know. Oh, the initiation there. I actually didn't see exactly on screen that the timing where he blinked in, but he didn't blink the Gyrocopter, and there may be a technical difficulty that was involved in that. But as far as Lina's disconnect, she was definitely casting that Light Strike Array when she got telekinesis, so that was just too many disables, and there wasn't really anything that she could have done differently in that situation. Rise, on the other hand, no idea. I mean, they really wanted that Gyrocopter pickoff, and if the lasso didn't work for some reason, that is very unfortunate, but that's just the kind of thing you have to deal with some certain computer malfunctions. So either way, boots coming up for Spirit Bear. Armlet already finished. Gonna look for phase boots to just plow down on towers hardcore. With the battle cry, he can just churn this butter and just knock down this tower into just a pile of rubble in about like 10 auto attacks really quickly. Fortification down for a while, so I'm sure this is gonna be his next intention, his next objective there. Interesting play by Jolene, going in for the Shikuchi, finding out this courier, and with a Geminate and one more right click, he actually gets the kill. Nothing on it, but still, nice. Oh, Sentry Ward. There's a Sentry, there's a Feed Script. That's one Weaver for one courier. He does actually buy out his items in this situation, so no unreliable gold, no gold really lost. I gotta say that because he bought the items, I think that the courier kill is actually worth that Weaver's death, but it's something that you have to kind of theorycraft about. The pros and the cons. In this situation, it does give a little bit of bump in the right direction for Absolute Legends as far as gold gain, and this tower going to provide that even more so. We do see a TP up top, but it's not enough to prevent Mania, and the Light Strike Array is going to, or just Nightmare. Either way, Mania's not going to be able to TP on out of here, even getting the Laguna Blade just to secure it. Either way, that is going to be 3 people heading up to the top lane, counteracting that Lone Druid, but the tower still fell, and that was Lone Druid's main objective. Of course, he would have liked to live to see it through. Either way, Haste Rune down on bottom, that'll be something that they want to control very actively, because we saw how effective that was early on Bone 7, using that Haste Rune under tower, and it can still be a very big deal. Getting a Nyx in really quickly, so on, Gyrocopter, so on and so forth. Getting a Surge and a Haste together, really great for them. Gem purchased by Zizu, but one issue with that is they don't have the courier to ferry it out. They're going to have to just kind of go in by themselves right now underneath the Sentry Ward of the opposition. Arise, popping off that Carapace, stunning out Socks, but right now they are kind of turning it around. The Blinding Light comes out on Zizu. He's going to take quite a few right clicks. Nice Nightmare, but still losing a lot here. Rise even commits the lasso just to make sure Zizu will fall, and from there they're looking for more counteracting team fights. Carapace up in 4 seconds, but it might not be enough. The Flame Break, oh, nice Light Strike Array, hitting on almost everybody. Same with the Dragon Slave, and that keeps Arise alive, so he will be able to walk on out, and from there the push will come in from Absolute Legends. I'm sure the Darkseer wants to defend this. He has his cooldowns available, just needs to find the right timing to get this deny, get the wall vacuum. They go on in with Arise actually getting a stun on one, Carapacing up the Illuminate, beautiful Carapace. Now we do see the wall drop on down, but Rubik gets the last hit on the tower. Jolene just Shikuchi's on away, and the chase is on. Miracle gets the Surge himself, but won't get a chance to use it, as he just gets barraged down by Envy very swiftly. Oh my gosh, that timing from the Nyx Assassin, that seemed like so small, but it actually was so huge. What happened there was he actually just went for a single impale on Rise, got the kill, the stun on the Batrider, but more importantly, immediately after walked right in front of the Keeper Light, charging a maxed out Illuminate. Carapaced it up, and Miggle lost all of his health. He was incinerated immediately, and from there they had a pretty easy fight to clean up. The good wall, good vacuum, and just really good Light Strike Array to buy a little bit more time for Arise so that he could make those plays. Whew, that was interesting. Either way, we do see 7,600 coming out from the gyrocopter as far as net worth goes, saving up 4,700. This is an exorbitant amount of gold to be holding up in the bank, but he definitely has something in mind. Generally, you want to actually go for smaller items earlier for the gyrocopter, like a Helmet Dominator or BKB. But right now has 4,900 saved up, and there's nothing really in my mind that he really needs that for, unless he wants both BKB and buyback. Either way. Nothing rational, I say. Anyways, I mean, there's plenty of different interesting choices he could go, but in this situation, he should be picking up a good item now, and he's actually, yeah, about to finish off the Mantis down. So that is the whole 50-50 deal, and they're going to be able to pick that up shortly with the Manta components just turning into a recipe very, very shortly, but opts to buy a TP scroll instead, so he's not going to have the active just yet, but they really just need to start getting mobile, getting active. Right now they're just playing around with dewarding, but in this position they're smoked up. They should be able to see the Firefly trails. They do have a Radiant Ward here, so with that they know what's going on. They just need to be able to respond to it, but it's a little bit too little too late. 900 HP dropping down. Roche is falling, but they do commit the wall. They get a double kill, trying to close it on in, but the Aegis has already gone to Sox. He's going to Shikuchi on out, but no, he gets Fiend's Gripped up. Nice Laguna Blade as well, dropping him down. The bear should be taking a fall in a moment, but Mania will be able to TP on out. Weaver not so lucky. No time lapse whatsoever. Blinking on his rise once more. He is going to go on in, trying to get either a stun or a carapace. Just goes for the mana burn onto Sox, but he did buy back. This could be a big, big kill if they could lock him down. Nightmare on top of the Shikuchi. They followed up with stuns, and they burn him down. That is his third death in about 30 seconds. Big, big kills coming out on top of Sox, and there's really not much more that can be done in this situation. They have the Impale, stolen by Miracle, wants to go on in, but oh my gosh, this is just terrible positioning. They get stunned up, they do have Rise on the back end of it, but they're all scattered around. They're forming around the perimeter, but they're just getting disabled up and completely locked down. Absolute legends. Initiating a fight they should not have taken. Oh my goodness, just dropping down, gonna lose the tier 1 tower, lost so many heroes. Lost the Roche fight, they did get the Roche kill, but immediately lost the Aegis, lost the Weaver again immediately after that, and then lost him after a buyback. Just one by one, piece by piece, really, Kaipi picking apart their lineup and just destroying their team fight. And a lot of that came down to this Gem of True Sight, making sure they could see Weaver in a position that he didn't expect to be, in this position here, and as well in this position here. All of that really came down to it, because I don't think half of those deaths, I think he might have been killed once without the gem, but he certainly wouldn't have been killed all 3 times. So that just came down to really, really smooth play with Zizou having that gem. Getting a little bit of hiccups as far as lags go, but should be alright. Anyways, looking at EE's items, now has that Manta style finish, he can pretty much go for whatever the heck he wants. There's really nothing to BKB. I haven't really commented on that, but pretty much the 2 things that you could BKB out of, you can just as well Manta style out of. You can Manta out of the Blinding Light, you can Manta out of the Entangle. So BKB not really adding that much more other than avoiding a telekinesis and some burst magic damage. So in this position, EE going for the Manta, I think it's a really, really powerful choice. And from here, he can just build a little beefier and not even care about the disables that can come forth. But there is one thing that he's going to have to worry about here. Going for the TP, he will not get entangled up though, and he will be able to get right on out of there. That was a very, very risky position. But unfortunately, Absolute Legends not able to really change the position there. Maybe if they went in for that Smoke of Deceit, gave a little bit of movement speed increase to the bear, he could have closed in and gotten that entangle, but in that spot, just unfortunate for him, he could not actually make it work. Force Staff coming up for Nyx Assassin. Could be Dagon as well, but I just don't see it being as viable. The no field hasn't been ranked up just yet, but Dagon at a 24-minute mark is so static, and it just doesn't change the pace of the game. It doesn't change how things are resolving themselves. Albeit it does work well with Lena's Laguna Blade. You can just kind of go for an insta-gib where you burst down people hard. But it seems like you could go for something with more utility, maybe a Necronomicon or something along those lines. Either way, Drum has been finished up for Weaver for quite some time, but I gotta say the biggest issue here is Miggle's delay of the mechanism. He hasn't had I mean, the Darkseer has had a mechanism for a very long time. We're talking like 12 minutes into the game. You see a quick pickup on Rubik. He's trying to ward, not finding an opportunity, and, you know, you're up against a Gem of True Sight, so in this position here, even if you get the wards off, really, what are you accomplishing? So, big mistake there, and in this position, just another kill, another point on the board for Kaipi, setting it up right now 27-8 as far as those kills go. Looking at it, most of it's in the hands of the Gyrocopter. Actually going in, they get the blink initiation on Miggle. They're going to pick him off as well. That is a blink Darkseer. Seen more and more commonly of late, and it's just because you can close that distance. You know, you got the haste, you got the surge, you can stack those up nicely and then blink on in. What is faster than that, honestly? I'm just kidding around, but seriously. It's good initiation. It was very, very effective to close in on the Keeper Light there, and now they're just, I'm not saying they're feeding, but my goodness, Kaipi is capitalizing on their mistakes pretty hardcore here. 8, 1, and 7 Gyrocopter, a 7, 3, and 9 Bane. And then Darkseer hasn't even dropped down once. So adding those all on together, it's just obvious advantage going the way of Kaipi. And Absolute Legends really needs something massive to pull themselves out of this kind of situation. The Blinding Light isn't going to cut it as far as disables on the Gyrocopter now that Manta is out. So they're really going to have to land that Lasso every single time. Lasso on Bane, Spell Steal of the Fiend's Grip. Or sorry, Lasso on the Gyrocopter, Spell Steal of Bane's Fiend's Grip to throw that out on somebody. And of course, they're going to just have to get a big amount of right-click damage from the Lone Druid, from the Weaver. Right now, Weaver doesn't have that much to bring to the table, only dishing out 115 damage, albeit that damage is doubled with a Geminate, but it still could be considerably more. Either way, we do also see that the Lone Druid has picked up his Armlet, moving in towards his Maelstrom, only a recipe away there, but it's still, it feels like it might be a little too late. We'll have to see. So 15,000 experience advantage, no surprises there. This position, they're really closing it in and just putting the hurt on Absolute Legends. In this position, they don't have any tier 1s. They just are pretty much drawing the line at their tier 2s, but even then, they have been taking a pounding. 450 on the top one, 311 on the bottom. It's really hard to hold those kinds of positions because they'll drop down in a matter of right clicks really quickly. Horizon looking for some initiation, has all the potential in the world. Vendetta, Blink Dagger, Force Staff, starting things off on top of Miracle, vacuuming them on together. They're going to be able to bring down the Rubik very swiftly, and they could have gone for Miggle, but the big thing is they don't want to overextend. They have an advantage, they don't need to throw it away, and so they'll go for a little bit of slow push. The Illuminate going to try to counter that out a little bit. Arise, will he get the Carapace off in response? No, just going to hit it up on Bone 7, but actually blinking off, Force Staffing on in, trying to find the Keeper, but he juked to Southeast. Miggle doing a very good juke, because he would have been otherwise dead, but now Rise and Miggle in an awkward position here. Recalled him into a spot where they could be initiated on at any moment. But going on in, there is no Carapace in time. They do mech him up to full, though, and it's not really going to be that big of an impact. EE farming up every single creep wave here. Big 158 last hits, but the Swarm does come on through. Just trying to delay while the Lone Druid pushes down on bottom. He doesn't have that Maelstrom yet. The Courier just about to fly that out to him. But really the big thing here is just trying to get some big right-click damage on the tower here. It's low. There is only a fortification to work through, and if he can just pull them away from this tower, they still have time to make the game go a little bit longer. Telekinesis not really making the impact, though. Blink Dagger comes on in. They're going to go on a Miracle here. Mana Burn, Vendetta, one more right click. That's all they need, but he steals the Carapace. They go for the Lasso, pulling him right back up on inside the base. Yeah, Arise in a bad spot. He's actually in a good spot because he's able to bring down with a Mana Burn. He still gets clipped off by the Illuminate 1 for 1, but you know, I think it's kind of just a humorous situation. It's for an ally to pull your own enemy, that the one guy that can possibly kill you, right into open arms, I guess. Interesting, but the one thing to keep in mind is that although they did not save the tier 2 in this position here, they were, oh, maybe it actually doesn't get the recall. He does get the recall. That's interesting, and the Eternal Envy didn't go for the right click on him, just right click the bear, and instead the Lone Druid gets out nicely. But anyways, it was effectively a 1-for-1 exchange, a mid for a support, so Nyx does take a fall, and also it's a tier 2 for a tier 2. In this situation, as Absolute Legends is all behind, pretty much what they're looking for is even trades, even exchanges. The problem is that also feeds up the Gyrocopter and Darkseer, who are going to get more and more of a menace to deal with as the late game kind of moves ever closer. So looking for a Desolator on Weaver, presumably. I mean, a BKB, I guess, could have some potential, but I really just don't really see. I think they need to kind of go big or go home, go for some large amount of physical damage, rely on the allies for disable, or they're just not going to stand a chance. So we'll have to see. But we do see right now Kaipi does not want to relent. They want to keep the pressure rolling. EE says, I've finished farming. I have plenty to work with here. 3,600 gold. That's buyback. That's plenty more beyond that. But just going to actually destroy the smoke to go in on that Spear Bear. They want to go for this pick off here. They still have a resummon available, but going for the first pick is still very, very impactful. And with this stun from Arise, they will be able to secure. What is he doing? Go for the stun. Oh, he actually has it on cooldown. Interesting. I think he started it with that and then blinked into the north. Either way, that is a lot of time committed, whereas the Spirit Bear can just walk away, heal back up. And the only thing they've done is force them away from Roche, but that is still a minute away. And so the Spirit Bear will be back up and kicking for that. Yeah, I guess I messed up the cooldowns on the Impale, so sorry about that, but whatever. In this situation here, a bear kill would be rather substantial. The Lone Druid is still putting a couple of items on himself. Mania does have that Maelstrom and Cloak on his own person. But if they lose the bear twice over, you're losing that armlet, you're losing the potential Assault Cuirass that he's building up. And that's some pretty big kills long term. Right now, Mania pushing down pretty hardcore on bottom, trying to dissuade them from going for their big ganking spree. Right now, the Dire has full vision of what's going on in the enemy jungle, but they are actually going for an extended kind of flank to gank down towards this top lane tower. Yeah. Miracle is kind of hiding out, has a TP scroll available, but really I'm not sure what he can accomplish to help his ally out. Right now they're just going to go for the recall to try to pull Weaver on out, and Arise actually just goes for a blind impale, doesn't catch it, and instead the recall will go on through. So, Rise, Miggle, and Sox all safe and sound in the base, and we'll have to see how that plays itself out. But right now, interesting build coming out of the Lina. Goes for the Ghost Scepter. I really appreciate that. I mean, it's really solid against the Weaver and the Lone Druid alike. Really just important to avoid that auto attack damage. But on top of that, now working her way towards either a Bloodstone or an Ags. Presumably Ags. I mean, that is a huge burst of damage. Looking at jumping it up a range of 900 and a damage of 1250 at level 16. I mean, it's ridiculous damage output. I'm just, it almost seems a little bit overconfident that you're just going to go for full static damage. I mean, all things considered, a big Laguna Blade is going to almost one-shot the Weaver because the Nullfield is only just now getting ranked. Speaking of, what the hell? Miracle is just really, really willing to hang out in this position for a while. I guess he just expects to be recalled if necessary, and until then he doesn't want to feed anymore. I mean, this is only a level 10 Rubik, so anytime he comes on the map, he is going to have a bad time with things. But right now, just trying to... I'm not even going to try to explain it. I don't even know what he's doing other than doing a little bit of weird split push nonsense. And again, forcing the enemy back. Trying to delay the game. Just expand it out a little bit by putting pressure out on towers that seem exposed. Alright, so Zizou has his 4-staff now. Really, really great for getting in a good position here. Looking for an opportunity on a Miracle, but actually just passing by ships in the night here. They did not have the vision they needed, and instead Zizou will literally walk right on by a Miracle, who's able to TP out to safety. Down towards the bottom lane to continue his split push annoyance. He's kind of playing a little bit of Rat Dota alongside Mania, who's just putting out some pressure there. So right now, they are going to see the AC coming up shortly. Just needs a recipe for that bear to really, really pick it up and get that powerful aura going. But until then, they really lack that much presence, and things are getting worse and worse for them. Bone 7 farming up a Shivas, looking towards a Scythe of Vice, and Gyrocopter picking up a Demon Edge, looking for either an MKB or a Daedalus. Either way, a lot of damage output, and they're going to be in a great spot to secure a late game victory if they just have that much damage output. The supports will not live through that, even with the AC's +5 aura. Ryan's going for a little bit of a nighttime stroll here in the jungle, putting up that Firefly, looking for an opportunity. EE is in a bad spot here. The Spirit Bear coming on in. They're going to go. They get the Entangle block. He has the Manta already, popping off the cooldown, but there's 3 versus 1 here. Despite looking like it's 3 versus 3, they're going to be able to pick him off, and that is really, really big. Now the retaliation coming on in. Zizou gets off on Sox here. Jolene's in a bad spot. They vacuum him together, looking for the wall. They do get that as well. They're going to pick off the Weaver before that time-lapse comes on through. Arise following up with mana burns and stuns. Big damage coming out, and the Laguna Blade committed to make sure he is down and out. And from this position here, that is a loss of the Gyrocopter, but he bought back. He committed a large sum of gold, committed just over 1,000 gold to get back in the game, and from here they take the Roche. They get an Aegis on the Gyrocopter, and that second life is going to be all they need to push in onto the base, take the high ground, and try to take the win here. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an Aghanim Scepter coming out for the Lina. That's a really, really big deal. BKB picked up on Rise. Pretty interesting. Avoids the Carapace. That's probably the biggest thing. But also some damage from the Gyrocopter, some disables and damage from the Lina, and the Nightmare, if that's any relevance. But I definitely would say the big thing is that Carapace, just because as soon as that Fireflight is active, you are always going to get stunned, and it adds up quickly. It's a big 2.4 second stun, and it's definitely something that he doesn't want to have to deal with. Anyways, Roshan has been dropped down. Gyrocopter picking up that Aegis. It was only the second Rosh, so there is no cheese on the table. But still, they are in a great position with 2 full Gyrocopter lives. He has Lifesteal, he has Manta. He has a lot to work with here. One thing to mention, though, Desolator does come out for the Weaver. He is still as squishy as ever, but if he can find a good opportunity, he'll be able to dish out a lot of damage. Carapace not coming out for a Rise. Didn't want to dispel the Vendetta. Instead going in for a big stun on the Bear, on a Miggle, burning down the Ezreal immediately. The lasso comes on through from Rise, bursting down on everybody here, but it's going to be a Rise on the front line. Sox gets Fiend's Grip up. He gets dropped down. The wall dropping, dividing the fight up here, and we are going to see that the Miracle steals up a wall of his own. Needs a little bit of mana. He has it with a Chakra. Going to drop it down on top of Gyrocopter. He kills himself with that wall. Now going on in. Bone 7 caught in a bad spot. Wants to blink. He gets it, but now here comes Eternal Envy, actually trying to drop a call down and fight this out, but instead abandoning Bane to the clutches of Absolute Legends. That was what they needed to counter-initiate that fight. Perfect defense. They do lose the Weaver, but I mean, like I said, a Fiend's Grip is almost a sure kill if it doesn't get interrupted, and they just weren't in a position to do so. They also lost Miggle. I believe he actually bought back for that. Either that or he has a heck of a shorter death timer than I thought, but no, he did commit a little bit of gold here and there. I mean, 863 is definitely something to lament as a support, having to give that away, but nevertheless, still making his way towards his Sange, later his Halberd. But the big play there, I'm glad I caught it, but Miracle stole that wall of replica, and the Chakra magic came out from the bot back Ezreal. So yeah, Ezreal himself didn't add too much to the fight itself, but if the Chakra magic wasn't there, I don't believe the Rubik could have popped off that wall, and they wouldn't have been able to end that fight so convincingly. So in this position here, Miracle really, really benefiting from that Ezreal pickup, and Keep the Light obviously setting it up so that they can win that engagement. Roche is down for a long time, so that's not going to be a major objective that either team's going to be looking towards. And from there, it's going to be about farming, sitting back, and trying to go for surprise attacks. In this case, a little bit of guerrilla warfare through the use of the Smoke of Deceit, looking for somebody in the jungle, but the only people involved are already invisible. Arise in the Vendetta, and Bane, who's just roaming on around, lagging a little bit behind. Picking up another gem, and we actually do see him getting engaged on here. They did have a gem of their own after that engagement, but Arise does have Carapace. Will be able to survive for a little bit here, bursting down a Miracle, force staffing away, and he will be able to blink in just a moment, getting forced again, but the blink was a little bit off as a result, so not getting too much traction, and he's actually going to get slowed down once again by Arise, but it has to watch out for that Carapace. The fight goes on with Eternal Envy, focusing down Zizu and the Bear, going to go active here. The Fiend's Grip does come out on Mania, and there, Eternal Envy is going to be able to finish that off without any Tangle procs coming on out. Bone 7 was able to pick up a kill on the Rubik himself, just a little bit too low and couldn't get away. So in that scenario, going in aggressive, Rise really, really wanted to pick up that Nyx, but committing so much there, they actually lost all that much more. With the Lone Druid down, with the Rubik down, this is giving an opening where Eternal Envy can just farm away, and he's always going to come out as far as GPM. We see he's right now 476, and for the next 50 seconds, that 420 is not going to go up, but actually just gradually decline. And of course, helping out more and more for the carry versus carry type matchup we're seeing. Bone 7 in an awkward position, but one more surge will lend its way so that Sox won't be able to really close the distance here and make a big impact. Arise coming on in. I don't know if this is the right play here. They did get rid of the Geometry Sight with the kill onto a Miracle, but following this up, the gem, yeah, it's in the hands of the Darks here. So I guess they're in a good position. The Rise can go on in. There's no detection. Going in for that Impale to start things off. They have the Brain Sap. They have everything they want. BKB does get popped off by Rise. He Fireflies on away. There is going to be a Fiend's Grip steal. Miracle blinks away immediately after the fact. Enough time for Rise to blink away. Actually, really, really well done. He does get Carapace, I think, but it's not a really big impact because the important thing was that that last Bane auto attack didn't come on through. The Fiend's Grip just popped off for a single second before immediately after Miracle just blinks on out. Really, really clever use of that mechanic. So powerful play there, and kind of following it up. That's really the show of a good Rubik player, is how he can use an enemy's abilities, but also not have to just like put himself in their shoes. He doesn't have to say, okay, I'm in a position where I have to use this spell, it's my ultimate, I have to use it in this manner and get it disabled on carry. You can always just pull somebody out of it. The spell isn't permanent. You can immediately spell steal something else and use it very effectively. So in that regard, he used it the way it needed to be used rather than in the traditional method, and it bought him enough time. Rise survives, and that does keep them going for a little bit longer. Right now, 40 minutes into the game, we're looking at 36-12, and although that still seems like domination for Kaipi, they've been losing momentum just a little bit here and there. In general, just Absolute Legends has been holding the line for quite some time, and actually been doing some really annoying split push. The AC finished up on the bear, putting a lot of damage into this tier 3 tower down bottom. Looking at items, MKB finished up, so Weaver not going to be opting for that butterfly. Just would be rather foolish to commit that much gold to an item like that at this stage in the game. In fact, the Gyrocopter might be looking for a butterfly of his own very, very shortly, so that's something that they could be looking for their MKBs to make sure that's not going to be an issue. Wards right now kind of giving a little bit of control to what's going on in the mid situation, what's going down in bottom lane, and I think that's really, really fortunate for them because they know when Sox is out in the open, when he can be ganked up, and so far their ganks on Sox have been pretty much just perfect. Every single time they don't kind of half-heartedly commit. They have detection, they have disables, they have lockdown, and they really, really bring him down with pure focus and yeah, pure intentions to really, really just cripple Absolute Legends farming potential. Interesting pick by the Knicks. It looks like he's going to go for a Scythe of Ice long term. Technically, Scotty's also viable to an extent, but definitely think Scythe would be the appropriate option. The best part about that is the fact that neither Weaver nor Lone Druid like to build BKBs. That's generally not going to be as effective as it is on other heroes. We just see a quick pick-off on Rise. They actually commit the Ludicrous Blade again. I keep on saying that, but it is only 50-second cooldown, so if you got the mana to work with, why the heck not? Get some lightning roll and do a little bit of a quick flurry burst and act like a triple day gun. It's like a actually the numbers are escaping me a little bit. 1250 magic damage. You compare that to a Dagon 5 and you're actually looking at a damage burst of 800. So right now Lena is packing a Dagon 5.5 to supplement the fact that Nyx didn't go for one. And that's kind of obviously adding up to something that will work out. The Geometry Sight on the ground here, the Nyx Assassin actually picked up one of his own, and or sorry, the Bane had one for quite some time, but they found their pick off here. I was talking about the ward vision, and it gives great understanding of what's up here and in the middle lane, but it doesn't actually give them anything defensive. So finding that pick off there, they were able to bring down the Bane. But now Eternal Envy's team just feeling very, very confident in pushing and forcing the issue on this mid tower. Through backdoor protection, they force out the fortification, and that's all they really needed here because they will also deter the Lone Druid, who will be recalled back himself. So Gyrocopter is going to be going for that butterfly. Weaver really, really needs to pick up the farm. He's going for a Manta style now, and I feel that's really good because there's a great many things that he can benefit from as far as Mantaing out of. As well, he just needs some really good stats, and that's definitely what the Manta provides, with a little bit of strength here and there. The problem with it is that butterfly come out pretty quickly for EE, and in this situation, there's really not too much that they can do until they have those MKBs come out, because Gyrocopter is getting pretty big. He already has over 30 armor with this ice armor active from the ogre. I know that's not permanent, but it's still something to consider. Here he does now have, I should probably be catching out these pickoffs because that is actually really, really bad. Was talking about a little bit of carry versus carry action, but in this case it's just going to be the supports who find the kills, who find their window of opportunity, and it might not even come down to it anymore. Let's just leave it at Gyrocopter is very survivable, large amount of effective HP for many reasons, but now we're going to see this pressure coming in on the top tower, and actually the teamfight will break out, going in with a vacuum and impale onto Miggle. He's going to be the first to drop, and from there they're going to be looking for a little bit more. Spear Bear will drop shortly, maybe recall spammed, and he will be able to just walk it away, but they change their focus. They move on over the tier 3, and although the swarm is a bit of a nuisance, they're still going to be able to power down this tower very, very swiftly, and I don't think there's much to really respond. Weaver is back up. He is their main damage output alongside the Lone Druid. First hit into angle, but the Ghost Scepter comes out as well. There is a lasso onto Eternal Envy, but there is a Fiend's Grip in return. Batrider locked in position, right-click down, and that is his casualty as well. There is going to be Sox committing that time lapse, but it's not enough. He's still going to get bursted, impaled up, and he will be locked down as well. And this is just desperation. They're trying and trying, piece by piece, but yet again, Kaipi just showing that they have the stronger team fight. They have the more presence in this situation. Even Darkseer getting out with 26 HP. Now we do see Mania in the thick of things, trying to do some damage here and there. Almost brings down Pylides, but instead falls himself, pops off that buyback, trying to jump back on in. But now Dire has exhausted all of their buybacks. They cannot get back on into this, and instead the racks will fall. The Ultra Kill for Eternal Envy. And I'm not saying they have to call GG here, but it's definitely looking like that's how the game is going to be ending itself out. Long game. Hard fought, but in the end, it's been very, very clearly in Kaipi's terms as far as initiation, as far as team fights, as far as the farm and experience. It's all been in their court. And now they're just kind of putting the nail in the coffin there, trying to get a racks. And that's going to give them momentum they need to continuously push on in more and more. And obviously with the top lane pushing in hardcore, that's going to set it up so that whenever the lone druid tries to split push all by himself, that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be all by himself, because anybody else is going to have to be either defending top or in a position to team fight, because they can't get picked off. They can't be straggling around kind of nearby, because anywhere there could be wards, especially since the enemy has that gem. Speaking of, it looks like there are 2 gems up. Darkseer has one, Lina has one, but none in the hands of Absolute Legends, and that is very, very unfortunate if they want to get any control of this. Going for a basher here, I think Mania made the right call. As far as his bear goes, it looks like it is down in the grave for 20 seconds, so that buyback proving even more fruitless. But either way, Halberd. There was a Halberd being constructed. It was on the Ezreal, but instead he goes for a Hooded Defiance. Not sure how I feel about this. It kind of seems like, you know, if you're going to be trying to commit to disarming the Gyrocopter and taking him out of the fight, that should be something that you prioritize. The Hood is great. I mean, with the mechanism and the Hood, you're going to be in a good spot, and soon the Pipe will make sure that they can actually survive through a team fight very, very effectively. But I don't know, committing this much as far as strength goes, and then just transitioning out, it's not as effective as you'd like it to be. Eternal Envy kind of cheekily jumped out, bounced out of that Roche pit, but still, he's going to be able to farm away while his Arise is waiting for that Illuminate. If they're most commonly, Keep It Light illuminates from this high ground here, and Nyx Assassin just kind of ready for it here, with the potential to get Vision, Carapace it, or just blink in and go for the Scythe action. Interestingly enough, it is going to be the Cheese left in the pit, possibly for Bone 7. Just going to ignore it. They go for the Spear Bear. Big pickoff here. He just resummoned it. This could be devastating. Going for the flat cannon damage. It's very, very swift, but going on in. Zizu is actually lassoed in by a Piglet while Replica drops down. I believe that's Kaipi's. Now coming on through, focusing down on Mania. They've already taken the Bear. They're going to take him as well. And now looking to finish it off on Rise. Blink coming back up. No such luck there. Same with Miracle. Going to get on out of it, but now they're all in the base. Nothing to stop them. Telekinesis going to be the last disable as they can commit. Instead, Miracle is going to fall. Looking for more on Socks. They should be able to finish him too. The gem did drop down. They lost the Bane, but they have another. They have Bone 7's gem available, and they're going to go try to close this one out for the win here on Jolene. Oh, big sheep, impale, whatever they need. They're going to finish it off, and Bone 7 lives to TP. No, gets Flame Break. Now we do see Miggle getting sheeped up, and it might be enough here, especially with a friggin' Ethereal Blade coming out of Lina. Finishing that off with the burst magic combo, but the mana burn's not doing enough. Miggle's surviving because the stupid Hood, all this strength to work with. He actually is pretty freaking tanky, but it's not going to be enough. He definitely can't do it all alone, and with that early pressure from the Bear, it forced Absolute Legends to engage on open ground where they just couldn't take it. Great Wall of Replica, interesting interaction between Sheep and the Lasso, but in the end, it goes the way of Kaipi Gaming. They were really the ones, this was their game to lose, and they just did not want to give Absolute Legends that opportunity. Took full control, did some really, really smooth moves in multiple team fights, and in the end, a well-deserved win. So, I was playing a little bit around with the fountain diving aspect, but with all the mega creeps kind of clustering on into the base, oh my gosh. They're inevitably going to be taking the kill on this Ancient here. But yeah, interesting game. Very, very action-paced. I gotta say, if I have to have an MVP, that I really, really love the Zizu's ultis. Finding the opportunity, really, really deciding the right target at the right time. It wasn't just like, oh, there's an enemy, there's a carry, throw it out. Every single time, he had a good, clear focus. He knew who was already dead and who he wanted to throw these ultis out. I can't really say the same for Lina. It didn't really hurt them too much, but he generally did a little bit of overkill to make sure things were gone and done very, very swiftly. Either way, this really turned out nicely for them. You see just the massive amount of items they're working with Ethereal Blade, Aghanims, Lina. I mean, you can't get burstier than that, but nevertheless, it really comes down to the chains of disables and a couple of mistakes from Absolute Legends team fights. Kind of a little bit, I'm trying to think of the right phrasing, but it was kind of lambs to the slaughter, going in one by one in situations where they just couldn't get control of a position, especially when defending that tier 1 tower in the mid lane right before it fell. It kind of seemed like a point where they were showing exactly where their heads were at as far as their teamfight mentality. It just wasn't clean. It was very, very forced, and that was kind of not how they wanted to play it. Absolute Legends picked up a Batrider to force the issue on teamfights, to control when the engagements happen, and instead it kept on going the other way. Darkseer with a Blink Dagger, Nyx Assassin with a Blink and a Force, they had control of the teamfight. Same with Blink, Force, Bane. I mean, they always were where they wanted to be. They started things off the way they intended to, and that's where Kaipi just had full control. So, we'll see if this is going to be 2-0 shutout in the next game. Pretty much, this was game 1 of the best of 3 series. We're looking at Kaipi versus Absolute Legends game 2 in just a moment, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed the commentary for the first one, and yeah, we'll get on into the second in just a moment. So that is going to be it for this one here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed my commentary, it's twitter.com/blazecasting is where you can follow me. Otherwise, this is the Premier League, and we thank you once again for tuning in.